Okay, so welcome along everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're pleased to have a number of people from the WLW group out of the Gold Coast, Ian Watson's team there and his clients. So welcome along and thanks for joining us. I hope you get a lot out of today. I guess as I mentioned, in the ramp up there, just make sure you've got the workbook. So there's a handout there, and you can download the workbook. We've just been talking about it. There's a little, on your control panel, there's a place where you can download the handouts. And we'll use the question box to get started and to do things. So make sure you've got all the tools you need, pen, pencils, all that sort of stuff. Make sure you close the door, turn off the phone, get rid of the distractions, and then get ready to rumble because we're ready to go now. So let's use the question box and get started. Let's have a quick run around and just everybody. So why don't you type in where you're from and what the weather's like today. I'm actually sitting here in sunny Innes Park near Bundaberg. It has been an absolutely beautiful day. The ocean has been just magnificent, so I'm going to do that. So yeah, always awesome in Perth, sunny WA. Oh, Neil from Ireland. Welcome, Neil. Glorious day. Cam from the Hunter Valley, lovely place. Aldgate, South Australia. What else we got here? Brisbane, thanks Les. A couple more from Perth, great work. Tony in Dubbo, fantastic. Yeah. South Australia, too cold this morning. Yeah. 4 degrees. Yeah, it never gets to 4 degrees in Bundaberg, Peter. Yeah, Yarrawalla in Victoria, fantastic. I know we've got Simon from New Zealand on board as well, that's great. So thank you very much for that, everybody. So I guess today we're going to cover a lot of stuff, and I want it to be interactive. Okay, so I want you to type stuff into the question box. If you've got questions, type them in. I'm going to ask you for your feedback. I'm also going to get you to work through some examples of things, but we're not going to have time to do everything. Okay, so you're going to have to work quickly and probably just put down a couple of quick thoughts and then be prepared to go back and work on things later. Okay, I'm going to prompt you for feedback. Now, this is something we've done a number of times, and my team and I, Ray and Chris, who are both working diligently in the background here at the moment, we've created a simple online course to support today's stuff. So I keep getting asked about productivity improvement. So what we've done is build a really simple online course that's going to work you through the process in a bit more detail, and I'll tell you how to get access to that at the end, as well as some bit more information on how to review this podcast, it's a webinar, because we've actually recorded it and we'll post it up on the web like we normally do. All right, so where are we? Like most of you, and I think like most of us, we never seem to get on top of the task we've got. We don't seem to have any effective ways for handling the various bushfires that come along and knock us around and out of our daily routine. And we often find it too hard to delegate to people, so we don't do that at all well and don't do that effectively. And what we want are really some simple systems, some easy ways to prioritize, to do things, and simple ways to track our tasks and what our team are up to and other stuff. And then some tips and some tricks for how we address this stuff. So today we're going to go through this. And for those of you who've heard this before, I apologise, but this came out of a talk that I had to give a little while ago, where I was asked to talk on how you might find an extra 8 hours in every day. And so what I thought I would do was I would actually do it. Rather than just talk about the theory of it, I'd actually do it and prove that I can do it. And I'll actually show you the results of what I've done today. It's been really quite enlightening for me. So today is all about stuff I've found that really works. And this is a quote I really like, and it's from Mike Abel from Saatchi & Saatchi. And he said, if you can't do your job on a 10-hour day during the week, you're either overworked or incompetent. And I know most of us want to think that we're overworked, but I really think at times we're incompetent from a time management perspective, okay? We're just not great managers of our time. Now, some of us are better than others, and I have my moments when I'm absolutely brilliant, and I have other days when I'm absolutely hopeless. So a bit of understanding around that is pretty important. Now, this next question is a really pivotal question, I think. What happens if we don't get everything done? Okay, so if we don't get everything done, what's going to happen to us? All right, so I want you to type into the question area. What happens if we don't get everything done? What are some of the outcomes? What are some of the things that could possibly go wrong if you don't get everything on your task list done? Whack it in the question area. Yeah, you get stressed. Yep. Yeah. Clients get let down. Yeah. Impacts on your family time. You'll do it later. Yeah, you're right, Tony. I often find that quite often if it's, the deadlines are artificially set by somebody else, and sometimes it doesn't really matter if we don't get it done exactly on time. Yeah, clients got to do it later. Somebody gets let down often. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, more to do each day. It's a never-ending cycle. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, crops don't get harvested on time. You know, there are some things we really have to do on time and have to be there, and the jobs are still there. Yeah, banks up and gets frustrating. It certainly does. So our frustration levels and our anger levels get a bit higher around it. So yeah, and then a slippery slope towards mediocrity. Yeah, I think you're right. So. But I think it's also about understanding that we don't have to get everything done. There are things that we must get done. There are other things that we should or could get done. And when you see some of the other sort of decision-making stuff we've done, if you go and have a look on the website at some of the videos, we talk about must, should, could as a prioritization tool. Well, I find that's pretty useful way to look at things. There's stuff we must get done. There's other stuff we should get done, and there's stuff we could get done. All right, so let's be clear that we don't need to get everything done. Now, as I said, we pulled together a bit of a workbook for you today. That's this lovely infographic that my team has pulled together as part of that, and it really steps you through the process and gives you some ideas on to write down some notes and things against. But the workbook is there for you to use, and we're going to use a little bit today. Now, there are three key words that I think are really important when it comes to being productive and thinking about managing our time and managing our productivity. The first one is focus, okay? And for me, focus is about being in the moment and not distracted, okay? Laser, clear focus is absolutely critical if you're going to be an effective time manager. And I know when I'm really busy, and today's been a really busy day for me, and I've been using all the tools we're going to talk about, and there's a whole heap of stuff happened that's meant that things are not as gone as planned, but you get that with the big contracts. But I've used the tools, and it's all about being focused. All right, it's keeping me focused, not getting distracted by other things. The second word that's really important in time management is discipline. Okay, now I'm not talking about the fun kind. I'm talking about discipline. I'm talking about self-discipline. Okay, so you've got to be disciplined to stop doing some things and focus on other things. And the discipline is often what sets people apart. So it's not about being harsh. It's actually just being about I guess it's picking up on the focus, but the discipline is following through on the focus. Third really important word is control. Okay, and I find that you don't need to be in control. In that, I mean, I don't think you need to be the boss necessarily. That's not what I'm talking about. But you need to take control of the elements that are within your sphere of influence. So that's emails, phones, distractions, other employees, meetings, all those sorts of things. You need to put some of that stuff into your sphere of influence and take control of it. All right. Now, the other concept I want to talk about today, I don't have a slide on it, but it's work hard once. So I attended a Taki Moore training course recently. I don't know if Taki's online today, but if he is, welcome. And he talked about one of the important things to do was work hard once. Okay, so work hard once, get it done, do it well, and set up the systems so you get some leverage for it going forward. But this concept of work hard once is something that's going to pop up again, and again. All right, so the three key words: focus, control, and discipline. Okay, we're going to keep coming back to those. They're going to be a recurring theme throughout the day. Now, I want to talk to you about our time management pyramid. So For those of you who are familiar with the business improvement pyramid, you'll see it's the same. And all I've done is, I guess, think about this from a time management perspective. It also ties in fairly neatly with Simon Sinek's why question. So his golden circles, why, what, and how. So it's the same sort of process. So really what we're talking about here is why are we lousy at time management? So why are we unproductive, or why are we productive, if you want to put a positive spin on it? Okay, but I often find this is a big area for lots of people. Okay, and it's an area we don't normally look at. So belief systems. So these are the attitudes, the attitudinal beliefs, and those sort of things that make you either poor at time management or good at time management. The second area is what we call waste, and it's about what. It's about what are you doing with your time. It's about what are you doing, when are you doing it. It's about focus. And the last one is the structure, and this is where most people put most of their effort. But it's about saying, are you doing the right things necessarily on a day-to-day basis, and how are you using the tools that are at your disposal? Okay. Now I'm going to run a little poll with you here. So I want you to think about those three questions. There's going to be a little survey pop up on the screen for you, and I want you to tick in there, just mark in there your the biggest challenge that you think with your time management. Where does it lie for you? Okay. So just start clicking in there. All right. Good. Pretty even running at the moment, although quite a alarming swing towards waste in the middle. About what people are doing with their time. Okay, keep it up. I'll leave it keep going for a little while. I find it starts to even out towards the end, so the early bolters get in pretty quickly. All right, so 3/4 of you have voted at the moment. When that stabilizes a bit, we will stop it. So just really quickly, just click on the box that's important for you and hit submit, and then you're away. All right, so at the moment, 61% waste, 28% beliefs, 11% structure. So I might just getting a few people in there at the last minute. I know a few of you are new to webinars and this sort of technology, so that's all pretty good. So what I'll do is just close off the poll, and share the results with you. So you can see there that nearly 2/3 of you are saying that waste is a problem, and then the other stuff, about 25% of you are saying that beliefs are a problem, about getting the right mindset, and then structure, about the right tools. That's quite interesting, because I often find that people really get caught up in the tools part of time management, and often it's everybody's really looking for the next best tool, the next best program, the next best app. Now we're going to spend a bit of time talking about those later today, because they are really important to get some leverage. So getting the right mindset is not so about beliefs, it's about getting your mind in the right place before you start, which is an excellent segue to where I'm going to go now. So thanks for that. So why are you a poor time manager? And I want you to think about not only that, about what it's costing you. Okay, I'm going to ask you that question at the end of the day. You might sort of think about it. So what is it really costing you to be a lousy time manager? What is poor productivity costing you in your business? So just have a think about that, and I'll get you to give me some answers to that later in the day. Now I think that this whole beliefs part, if you like, and beliefs may be the wrong term for it, but it's this whole attitudinal thing, is about a couple of things. It's about attitude, and it's also about some physical attributes that you have, about energy in at the right times. But let's just talk about attitude for a start. So my experience is that attitude's a function of these three things. Focus. So it's, what are you doing? Okay, so often you focus at the time. How focused can you be? Are you distracted? Is your mind all over the place? So that affects your attitude. The second thing is your work ethic. Okay, and that's your inner drive. And I find that some people have a really strong work ethic and other people don't. And sometimes it's situational. You know, if you're really passionate about something, maybe you work really harder at that. But some people just have a naturally strong work ethic. Okay, and that often comes from your parents and your upbringing and that sort of stuff. You'll have a really strong work ethic. Okay, and it shapes the way you approach time management. So this belief systems is all about your thoughts and your processes that drive your mindset around beliefs, around time management and productivity. The third one is motivation, and that's what's driving you. What's driving you at the moment, and what's your motivation to get things done. So I find that being really productive is a function of all those three things, and they all impact on each other. And if you're not focused on something, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then often you're not very productive. Okay. The second thing is work ethic. You know, I know this one personally for me is when when I was growing up, my parents instilled a very strong work ethic in me. That work ethic was basically the harder you work, the better off you will be. My experience in life that's not necessarily always the case. It's often about working smarter. I think hard work's important, but it's not all about just working harder and harder. It's about being smart. And therefore, what I found was that I was working really, really hard, working really long hours, doing lots of things because that's what I thought I needed to do to get ahead and be successful. And actually, it was actually counterproductive in many ways. All right. And then the last one is about motivation. And motivation itself is really important. And a great example of this is a client I was working with had a team member that was staying back working long hours at the office, longer than anybody else. Had so much more work to do than anybody else, which really wasn't quite true. So when I spent some time with them as their coach, I sort of started asking them about some things and found out that this particular gentleman was having some issues at home with his wife, some marital issues, and just didn't want to go home. So he was actually creating work and being really unproductive, so he had to stay at work. And we worked through some of those issues, and off he went and sorted that out. So, your motivation can make you do different things. It can make you be really unproductive as well. So I want you to think about that and think about, just quickly punch into the question area. Which area do you need to work on? Of those three areas that relate to motivation and your attitude towards being productive, which is the one that's most important for you to work on? Which one do you think is either helping you or hindering you? Whack into the question box. Focus, quite a few focuses popping up. Yep. Focus is the absolute winner at the moment, so it's all about focus. Okay, excellent. All right. Well, it's unanimous. It's all about focus. Thank goodness we've got work ethic here. Good. Yep. Good stuff. Thanks, stuff. Yep, focus is really important. Don't underestimate the work ethic because it's not just about it's not just about whether you've got a good work ethic or not. It's how it might shape your behaviour in terms of being a good time manager. So think about it from that perspective as well. Sue's tired, and we've got some motivation there. So thank you. All right, so that's really good. Now, as I mentioned, there's some other components to being really productive that I think sort of sit into this beliefs area. That's where I put them in anyhow. And the first ones are around diet, exercise, and sleep. And there's a great book by this gentleman called Tom Rath, Tom Rath probably is how you pronounce his name. Tom also wrote StrengthsFinders 2.0, which is another book that I would recommend you read. Tom has a particular spin on life in that he has a genetic disorder that means his body doesn't produce a lot of the natural defenses against cancer that the rest of us have. So he grows tumours quite prolifically. And so what he has done is work out, so he's had all his surgeries and all this stuff. So what he's done is work out all the things in life that reduce the amount of cancers that he might have, the amount of tumours that will grow and everything else. So it's a great book, well worth a read. But the really important things he talks about in it are you've got to have a good diet. And good diet is as much as about energy as it is about calories, all right? So think about them in two different ways. So think about food that gives you energy and eat properly during the day, healthy breakfast, all that sort of stuff, but eat well and you'll find that you're far more productive. He talks about the need to move and exercise, not exercise from a point of view of rush out and doing push-ups, so that's not a bad thing, and the fitter we are, normally the more productive we are. Hate to tell you folks, but it actually tracks fairly well. But it's also about movement during the day. Most of us are relatively sedentary in our jobs. We might sit in offices or cars or tractors or whatever, but we don't spend a lot of time moving about. We spend more time sitting than we do. And there's some quite strong evidence to show that really knocks our productivity about. So that's why these stand-up desks and all these things are the big rage at the moment. But you can actually just do that by standing up and walking around and taking the opportunity to move a lot more than we currently do. Read the book for some more details. And then the last one is about sleep. And this is one that was particularly important for me because I was one of those people that survived on 4 or 5 hours a night sleep. The research quite unequivocally shows you need 7 to 9 hours sleep. So that's why the old 8 hours sleep is a pretty good maximum for most people. Now, the research has shown also that you can survive on a lot less sleep. And what's his name? I've gone blank. Donald Trump has recently been sprouting that if he's president, he'll be really good because he only sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night each night. The challenge with that is that all that means is he's operating at a suboptimal level, and you can train yourself to operate at that suboptimal level. You're just tired and you're not as productive as you are if you get a decent night's sleep. And so the figures are quite amazing. And if you look at this is an app I use called Sleep Cycle, which has got quite a nice alarm clock in it. But also, if you leave it on your on the mattress beside you, it will track your sleep patterns during the night. And these are 2 consecutive nights. One night I got 6 hours sleep, and the next night I got 8 hours sleep. You can see the big difference there is in sleep quality. So on the left-hand side, the night I spent 6 hours in bed, you can see that I was up in the waking area a lot more, had a lot less quality sleep. Whereas the next night I stayed down in that sleep and deep sleep area for most of the night. So think about your sleep, think about your diet, think about moving during the day, getting up and moving around. And we're going to talk about some tools later that might help you do some of that as well. Okay, so really important that you get your belief systems right, and we start to map out why is time management an issue for you, and are you in the right frame of mind? So it's about being positive, it's about being productive, and that's about those 3 areas of motivation. Focus, work ethic, and motivation. Sorry, the 3 areas of attitude. Okay, so that's the first sort of thing that we've worked on. We're now going to talk about the sort of second level here, which is around waste. All right. And waste what? It's about what are you doing with your time. And I'm moving on quite quickly, and I don't make no apologies for that. I've got a lot to get through. And this is where that word focus comes back in, okay? So think about it. So what are you doing with your time? And I think the things are we need to get the big picture right. So for those of you who participated in, I think it was our last webinar, certainly we've done 2 of these, so where we did the Making the Most of a Year webinar, we talked about making sure you get the big picture right. And in MindShop, we have a tool called the Life Balance Wheel, and we used a version of it in the Making the Most of the Year book as well to help you plan it out. So if you're interested in planning out your year, and I'll just show you the annual planner in a second, then go and watch that webinar. Now, what I want you to do is open up your workbook. And if you see here, we've got 6 areas that you can focus on. You can add more or less, whatever you want to do. But the areas that we talk about in terms of life balance are family. So that's family, and need to be. I think family is important for most people. Social aspects, so that's friends and all those sorts of things. Finance, that's your personal finance and getting that all right. Philosophy. You can put in there spiritual if you like. So if you're religious in any way, you can fit that in there. If you're not religious, then it's about your own personal philosophy and your own value sets and what are you doing to grow in those areas. It's about mental growth. So it's about expanding your knowledge and your skills. And lastly, it's about health. Okay, so they're the 6 areas. So what I want you to do very quickly is I want you to go into the workbook. You'll see that, I think it's on the 2nd page, you'll see a nice little diagram there. If you see that 0 is in the middle, 10 is the outside ring, I want you to score yourself for each of those quadrants and tell me, type into the question box, which one has the lowest score for you. Okay, so you're clear? So type into the workbook there. Just do step 1 of the exercise, and you don't have to do it all. So just tell me what's the area that I guess you've got most to work on. Now, when you go through the exercise in a bit more detail later, you'll realise not everything has to be a 10. Okay, but normally you need to improve things. So we've got financial, social, philosophy, yep, mental, cool, health, family, I think we've got the full spectrum so far, social, excellent, yeah, mental and social, bit each way there, well done. Okay, so yeah, just keep them rolling in. So quite a lot, and this is very individual to each of you. So make sure that you sort of that you take the time to do this. It's a really good exercise to focus your mind. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is that there's no work here. And you say, well, how can my life be balanced if you don't take work into consideration? My philosophy in this is that work is the stuff that balances out work. Okay, so this is all the stuff outside of work that balances out, that gives us balance in our life. Okay, so I don't think it's about fitting work into this. It's about making sure that you have balance in your life, and it's about balance in all these things. Okay, and work is just on the other scale. It's like a scale, if you like. So really important that you spend a bit of time understanding what you need to work on so you get some balance back into your life. Okay, all right. You might need to do a hobby or have some friends or do something else. I know personally I spend too much time working and not enough time, doing some other things. That's all going to change for me fairly soon. So, all part of the plan. Okay, so that's your life balance wheel. When you've got some time, I want you to go back. I'll take you through the exercise in just a sec. But the reason for doing this is you can then go and take this year planner, which we used in the Making the Most of the Year, and there's the link to the webinar down the bottom. But if you go to sbdbusiness.com.au or horticulturenextgeneration.com.au and click on webinars, you'll see there's a Making the Most of the Year webinar there, and you can actually participate in that webinar, download the workbook, which has got this planner in it. Now, the point of this is you can then start to block out some of the important things and plan your year and get your perspective right. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Okay. So the exercise, when you get a chance, I want you to go back, score yourself now in each area, score yourself where you need to be, remembering not everything needs to be a 10, and then work on the biggest gaps. Come up with some actions to help you bridge the biggest gaps in your life balance wheel. All right? Because it's all about getting the big picture right. Excellent. So, speaking of time management, really important you understand where you're putting your time. So this whole question is about what are you doing with your time? Well, until you do a bit of an audit, you're really not going to understand where you're spending your time and what you're doing with your time. So this is a great program. It's a great thing to do. It's as scary as hell. Okay. Now, I've just often looked at work in this space, but as you can see here, you could do both. You can look at where you're spending your time outside of work as well, but often we need to be productive in work because that's where we need to be in business. But it's up to you, the areas that you focus on. Now, in the online course, we take you through a little process for doing this. So we've got a model mapped out for you and some templates and stuff for you to work on. So that's all helpful. But a simple way to do it is just to get an A4 page, carve it up into 8 or 9 key areas, depends on how well you do things. Give each area a name, and then just track your time for 2 or 3 weeks. You've got a regular, if your week is very ordered, then you might be able to get it out in a week. But I find I've got to do 3 to 5 weeks to really get some power out of that. And all I do is just stop every now and then and look back and say, okay, how much time have I had? I just use little 15-minute intervals and just say, okay, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes, and put little strikes and that sort of thing. So time audit, really, really useful. Yeah. Okay. So you can look at the data log in your phone and work out how much time you've been spending doing things. Yeah. So the amount of time people are spending on their phone each day could really give you some insight. So there's lots of places to get some of the tools and stuff in this, I guess, to get the data to help you map this out. All right. Now, we've seen this before. This is my time audit. So I did this back in 2013, I think was the first time I did it. And I mapped it out, and basically what it told me was I was working about 61 hours a week on average, plus travel, about 10 hours a week travel, and I was spending a lot of time. I need to spend some time on client meetings, spending a lot of time on emails and web and social media, about a day and a half a week. Also adding in some Skype calls with clients, spending some time communicating with my team, which is really important. But importantly, I wasn't spending that much time on marketing, training, strategy, planning, some of those other things. And therefore, I thought I was pretty unproductive as a result. Yep. So what I needed to do was focus on reducing time on emails, spend quality time with the team, but less time doing it, and increase the time for strategy, marketing, sales, training, that sort of stuff, and reduce the overall hours work. And remember, my aim was to save 8 hours in every week. Well, here's how it worked out for me. So I've just done it again recently, and some of the stuff may not have changed as much as you'd think, but we'll just quickly run through them. So I'm actually spending a little bit more time with clients, which is always good. So an extra sort of 5 hours a week in there with clients, which would be quite handy. I've actually reduced the amount of time I'm spending by emails and web and stuff by nearly the full 8 hours I was looking for, just by simply just not doing it and being smarter. And I'll tell you how I've done some of that as we go, as we move through. Communication with the team, I put a system in place where I just spend less time doing it, but I think our communication is actually better than it has been. Spending about the same sort of time on marketing and sales, but I've got to say I think the quality of what I'm doing is much, much better. So I'm far more focused in terms of that, and that's paying off for me. Similarly with training, I used to do a lot of ad hoc training, and what I've done in over that time is I've actually just focused on going and doing some training courses and some other things. So I've got some real structure into that training now, which has been really good. Spending, it's only an extra hour and a half a week, but 1.3 hours a week. But you'd be surprised, that's coming in larger blocks is what I'm doing there with that strategy and planning. So I'm just working on that, and I've cut my administration time down by just being a bit smarter about some of the things that I do. Travel's actually increased, and that's a function of my business growing in different areas. And I'm about to fix that in a fairly dramatic way in the coming months, which I'll tell you more about another time. So as you can see there, I saved about 8.3 hours without travel, but if you add the extra travel in, I've sort of saved that 6 hours per week. But that 6 hours, that 12 hours of travel is going to be cut way in half. So I will have saved the full 8 hours in every day. So it's been a great exercise to do, and I actually picked up a whole heap of those gains early on. But those gains have been really well cemented for me in my business. So and a big part of what I've done is about setting priorities, right? So it's about setting the priorities and getting that right. And this is a model from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book, one of the best $20 you'll ever spend. So go and grab a hold of Covey's stuff and read it. And this model's part of it, and it's a great model for setting priorities. And basically, Covey says there are things that are urgent, or not urgent. And there are things that are important or not important. Okay? And if we put them into a matrix, we end up with this matrix where quadrant 1 activities are things that are both urgent and important. And they're things like crises and deadlines and problems and all those sorts of things, and those bushfires that happen in our business. Quadrant 2 activities are really important, but they're not urgent. And they're things like building relationships. That's that planning, that strategy, that training. It's our personal fitness, family and self and all that sort of stuff that goes into that space. And that stuff we bump regularly for quadrant 1 activities and often for quadrant 3 activities and even 4. Okay? So what we've got here is then we go to urgent, not important. So quadrant 3 activities are things that are urgent but not important. I normally find they are things that are thrust upon me by somebody else, BAS reports and other things that are somebody else's deadlines I'm trying to meet. And the last one is then not urgent and not important. And a lot of social media and that sort of stuff fits into here, Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, but we tend to get carried away with it and waste lots and lots of time with it. So it's a great framework to use and start to put your sort of your time audit through. And in the training course, we've actually used this model to help you differentiate and sort out your timing. But if you think about the sort of my time audit, most of my client stuff is probably in that quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 area. That strategy, planning, training stuff is all quadrant 2. Quadrant 3 stuff was all the administration and other things that I didn't need to do. And then the fourth one was the sort of time I was wasting on web and social media. I called it faux research, watching TED Talks on, mosquito populations in Africa and all that sort of stuff. Very interesting. Doesn't do much to help me in my business. So once you drop your elements from your time audit into this, then you can use them to start to map your quadrants. Okay. Now, I was going to do a little bit of an exercise here, but we might just sort of push through that, as I think there's some more important stuff to talk about. But one of the things to think of is I want you to think of of activities that you could put into each quadrant and focus on the quadrant 2 activities. Now, my experience is that and the more time you spend in quadrant 2 doing planning and that sort of stuff, less time you spend in quadrant 1. Okay, so if you're focused on what you're doing and spending time in quadrant 2, you'll spend less time putting out the bushfires and stuff and rushing to deadlines. Okay. So that we've been through. So we've been through that sort of the beliefs and the waste stuff. And for me, that's really about the foundations right, about getting the foundations right and setting up the focus for what you need to do. We're now going to talk about getting the structure right, and that's about managing the day-to-day and some of those sorts of things. So I've got to be honest, I've done about every sort of time management course there is. I had daytimer diaries when they were out. I think they were daytimers. I've had all sorts of things. I've read the Getting Things Done. I've got a series of empty manila folders here from the Getting Things Done program that don't quite work for me. I've been to every course. I've been to every seminar. I've read just about every book on time management. If you've written a book on time management and I haven't read it, you might send me a copy because I'm going to fill out my collection. And what I found was we needed a simple system because I found that too many of these systems were too rigid and they suited people who had very mundane jobs or routine jobs or extremely well organised people, but rigidly organised. And to give an example, an ex-girlfriend of mine actually went out with one of the guys and he was one of these diary companies. They would come and run a time management course for you, sell you $1 million worth of diaries and pages and stuff, and then they would come and help you in your business. They'd come and coach you through how to be more productive in your day. And he was a very organised individual. I've met him, and he was very, very organised young chap. And she'd said to him one day, "Look, I know you're really well organised, but we really need to be a bit more spontaneous." And without even thinking about it, he said, "I've got some time for that on Friday afternoon." So, so you can be too rigid with this stuff. So spontaneity for me is something that's a bit spontaneous. All right. Now, the structure I came up with was something that was passionate for me, and it works for me. It may not work for you, but I think it will work for a number of my clients. So, and it's really about understanding what are the 4 key things that you need to focus on every day in your business to be successful. Okay? So for me, that's really important that you get those 4. because I started looking at, oh, I need to do a bit of this. I started blocking out time. That didn't work. I kept bumping it for other things. And what I realized in the end, that there were 4 things that I really needed to do. When I went back and looked at my Stephen Covey stuff and my time audits and all that sort of stuff, I realized there were probably 4 things that I really need to focus on. Now, why 4? 3 didn't seem like enough. 5 seemed to be too many when I got there. But I've pruned it back to 4 things that really matter for me. Now, I'm happy to let you have 5 things if you really want, but I think the tighter you keep it, the better. So my 4 things, these are the 4 things that are really important for me. I need to do some client work, okay? So I need to work with clients. That's what I do best, and that's how I make my living. It's helping, family and privately businesses grow and develop. That's what I do. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love, okay? So I need to do some of that. I need to do some of that every day. I need to do some marketing and sales. Without filling the pipeline of my business doesn't exist, okay? So I need to do some marketing and sales activity. This webinar is a marketing and sales activity for me, okay? It's demonstrating capability to you. All right. I also need to do some strategy for my business, okay? And I need to build systems and processes, and I also need to do some personal development and training, and I lump all that together. All right. And then lastly, I need to manage my team. I've got a small team in the Philippines, Ray and Chris. I can't survive without them, and I need to manage them so I get the most out of them and help them to grow and develop as well. Now, they're the 4 things that I do. I'm going to talk to you a minute about what you do about the things that don't fit into your model, but there are 4 things that I need to do in my business every day. So what I do is I have in Trello, which is a tool I'll talk to you about in a minute. In Trello, I have a series of to-do lists, and I have one for each of those things. I actually don't have one for team management, but I have 3 lists, and I make sure I tick off something out of each of those lists every day. So I click off some client work, some marketing and sales activity, some strategy and development stuff every day. Even if it's just reading an article or watching a TED Talk or doing something while I have lunch, I make sure I tick it off every day. You'll be stunned at how much stuff you get through. So what I want you to do is think about, for your business, what are the top 4 things you must focus on in order to achieve success? Okay? So I want you to think through those 4 things. What are they? Now, you might want to borrow mine. If you can't find it, you might just say, those ones that Russ has got work for me. But what are the 4 things you need to focus on in order to achieve success in your business? I want you to pick the top one then, type it into the question area. Okay. What are the 4 things you need to focus on? There's a space for this under the Covey quadrants in your workbook. You can write your 4 things in there. Yep, client work. Yep. Yeah, it's a pretty important one. Team management. Yeah. Yep. Often find that the bigger your team gets, that often becomes the key driver in your business, is getting that team management right. Yeah, marketing, strategy, yeah, sales and marketing, client work, yeah, outputs for each contract, so that's delivery if you like, yeah, business development, business systems, yeah, putting better systems in place, good one. All right, so we all got some areas we need to focus on, yeah, and being innovative could be one of those. Thanks, Trevor. So think about what it is that you need to do, but group them up into big areas and big chunks. So because if you think about it, you're going to have 3 or 4 to-do lists, and you're going to pick an action out of each of them every day, and you're going to tick off something. So even on days when I'm traveling, I make sure I read something on the plane, or I listen to something, or whatever. I'm in the car, I listen to a podcast, so at least I can tick off some strategy and development stuff. I make phone calls, I do things because I want to tick it off my list, and you'll be stunned at how much you get through. Okay, so that's all really, really powerful stuff. And I'd encourage you to go back and put some focus and some effort into that. All right, rolling along here. So for all other things, we have the stop doing matrix. Now, I can't remember whether I developed this. I think I did, but I think I've stolen it from somebody else just as well. So if I've stolen it from you, I really apologize, but in my own little brain here, I thought I came up with this. And it came from Chris Mason, who's my coach, asking me every year. He hasn't asked me this year, but it's only a matter of time. Russ, you want to free up 20% of your time to grow your business and develop. What are you going to stop doing? That's a really annoying question because it's a really powerful question. So what are you going to stop doing? Okay, that's really important. So I want you to think about it for a second. And there's space in your workbook. I want you to write in there, what's one thing you are going to stop doing? Now, it might be, I got off a couple of community boards and other things. I stayed on others, but I just thought, I can't keep doing this. So I stopped going to some things. Okay? What are you going to stop doing? This year for me, I'm going to stop traveling so much. Type it into the question box for when you're ready. What are you going to stop doing? It's a hard question. Viewing irrelevant emails. We're going to get to that in a minute, Trevor. Yeah. Stop working late. Excellent. Yeah. Timesheets. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yep. Drop a role in a community organisation. Yeah. Excellent. So, yeah, stop procrastinating. Okay? Just don't put that off and you'll be fine. Yeah. Social media. Stop wasting time on social media. Yes, it's a big time waster. And it's really interesting and it's really fun, but, do it instead of watching some rubbish on television. Okay? Yeah, working late, being distracted, put some limits on your email, all that sort of stuff. Working late seems to be a fairly popular one. Okay, great. So it's really important you think about that and you start to plug in there, what are the things I'm going to stop doing? All right? Stop doing housework. Excellent. Work suit. It's called a cleaner. They're much cheaper than you think. And this comes to the next one. It's a perfect segue into that. Thank you again for that. Because for all those things, that we need to keep doing, what can you delegate? What can you give to somebody else? Yeah. So is there somebody else in your organization that you can give part of the task to or all of a task to? And if you supervise them appropriately and give them good instructions, so delegation is hard because you have to put some time in at the front. So you've got to work hard once with them to make sure they get the instructions and that you monitor them and look after them. And, too often people say to me, I can't delegate because, I can't delegate because it takes me longer to tell them what to do than it does to do it. Yeah, it does the first time, but after the 10th time, that argument ceases to exist for me. All right? Delegate's internal. If you've got nobody internal to delegate to, and I know some of you won't have authority to do this in your businesses, but can you outsource it? Who externally can you outsource to deliver that task? And we'll talk a bit about virtual assistants and leverage in a little minute, but who can you outsource to? All right, and then the last one is re-engineer. So if you can't do any of those things, how can you re-engineer the task so it takes 10% of the time? Okay, and often that's a combination of process, systems, software and other things to help you get there. But how can you re-engineer that task? And I'll talk to you about what I've done in a minute with some other things. So really important that you focus on these things. And this is all about discipline, okay? Really, it's all about discipline. So put your task list through the stop doing matrix, okay? Really, person, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, Trevor. Delegation does cost, and there's a question I'm going to make. So if you're a one-person band and you're going to outsource stuff, it does cost, but you've got to think about what can you do with that time that you're saving. Okay, so if it costs you, let's say $20 an hour to outsource it, what have you got to do to generate $100 an hour and justify that expenditure? Okay, so think about what you do with your time, because I don't think it's just a matter of just outsourcing stuff or delegating stuff to other people. You've got to be thinking about, okay, I free up that time. What am I going to do with my time that's way, way more productive than doing that? Okay, so work through that stop doing matrix. Okay, and I want you to add in, interesting question here from Sue. What do you value your time at? The same as a contractor? No, I don't. Because the leverage of me working in my business far outstrips any contractor that I can bring in to do stuff. So you've got to look at the value that you pull out of the business. So if you look at the potential profitability in your business from focusing on the right things, I'd be putting that back into an hourly rate, and there's some calculations you can do around hourly rates for that sort of stuff that give you an indicative thing. But I find most people in business, $100 an hour is the sort of minimum rate we need to think about. Okay, so I'm running a little bit behind schedule here, folks, so I'm really sorry about that. So let's talk about leveraging your time. So let's work through some of the tools and things that I find are really important for leveraging our time. The first one is what I call the Pomodoro technique. I stumbled across this. I'm not quite sure where, but it's been a real revelation for me. Now, the Pomodoro technique, and I forget why it's named after an Italian word for tomato, but it is something to do with little pomodoros, and I'm not quite sure. It must be cherry tomatoes or something. What it basically says, work in 25-minute bursts and take 5 minutes off, 5 minutes break each, and then you can get back into it again. So you take a 5-minute break and get back into it. After every 4 cycles, you take a 15-minute break or a longer break until you get to your lunch break or whatever. Really interesting that it works. And I'll just show you here. So excuse me while I jump around with the technology, but here's the little Pomodoro timer that I have. So all this does is pop up here, and you hit start it, and it starts counting down, all right? And then you just hide it. But it sits up there, and you can see it counting. So you can see it counting down in the top corner there, and it'll go off and send a little alarm. Now, what it is it's a simple app I've got there, and that's either Focus Booster or Pomodoro Time apps that I use. But what it's done, it's like a ticking bomb. So what it does is keep you focused. You can actually make it tick if you want. And it allows you to say, you're going to get back to somebody or have the ability to get back to somebody in 12 minutes. So you can check your phone messages, check your email, go and talk to people, do whatever you do in X number of minutes. And people that I've been working with who have put this in place find it really empowering to say to somebody, yeah, I can help you. I'll be back to you in 12 minutes if that's okay. All right? And so that I find that works really well. It's really powerful. I've been using it all day today, and it works really well because it's about taking control of your environment. Yeah. Yeah. It does take discipline, Trevor, to get it right. And that's what it's about. It's about discipline, to make sure you turn it on and use it, and don't get distracted. All right, so let's talk a little bit more here about email. Email is one of the biggest time wasters that I find. I was spending a day and a half a week on it. It's just crazy. A couple of simple tips. Let's turn off no notifications, all right? So go into your program, turn off those little bings that pop up and say you've got an email. Just turn all that off because you don't need it. You don't need to be constantly reminded of what's coming in because we're like Pavlov's dog. That little bell bings and we have to go and we start salivating and we have to go looking for something. I don't know what it is. I think it's our need for social validation or something that forces us to constantly go and look at emails. But, take control of your day, turn it off, and don't feel like you need to check your email every time the damn thing bings. Second thing is, don't check it first thing in the morning or last thing at night. Okay, so lots of people do that. So lots of people check their email as soon as they wake up. Almost they roll over and check their email on their phone or whatever. Don't do that because what you're allowing is somebody else to start dictating your day. So set the day up for the way you want it to be. Then you read your email. Maybe you have to modify it. Maybe you don't. But don't get caught up in it. So I find people come in. First thing they do is open their email. An hour later, they've answered all their emails, and haven't done half the things that they needed to do. All right. So I'm not saying don't answer emails and don't do that sort of stuff. We'll talk about some quick ways of doing that in a minute. But don't do it first. Don't do it last because it actually sets you up badly for the next day. And lots of the times you get an email that you can't sleep on. So people, my advice is don't check it first or last thing in the day. If you're not going to check it, then when do you check it? Well, only check it 3 times a day. Okay, so check it morning, noon, and night is what I do. It works really, really well. The thing is, you don't have to have a little message that tells people what to do. You don't have to tell people that you're not going to check your emails regularly and all that sort of stuff. But but you do need to just check them at different times during the day. All right. Now, if it's urgent, if people are sending you urgent messages via email, they are using completely the wrong communication tool to deal with you. So I'd be giving them a call and saying, hey, if you want to contact me quickly, urgently about something, then pick up the phone. Now, I find it's really interesting. If people flick you an email and you don't respond to it, it's an urgent one, they will normally pick up the phone and call you, okay? So phone or text is a great way for urgent communication, okay? Now, Trevor's made a comment that he gets, 50 emails overnight, so he checks them, they build up to 100 in the morning. What do we do about that? Well, my experience is if you're only going to check it 3 times a day, you've got to set up some rules. And for me, the rules are fairly important. Now, the rules are part of most sort of programs, that you can get. So they're rules like. Sorry, I've just got to do something here. So the rules are really important, and there's probably 3 things you need to do. You need to set up some folders. So if you look at this example here, I've got some folders here on the sideline. So I've set up the important folders here. I've set up less important folders down the bottom in this red area. So when you set up the rules, everything that hits your inbox gets automatically sorted into one of these areas. And you can see here that the important ones I haven't read that are important have got little numbers next to them. You can see down here there's a whole heap of other stuff, some internet marketing guru stuff down here and stuff from HubSpot. It's all really good stuff, but I don't need to read it. So what it does is clean out your in-tray. Really importantly, that you clean out your in-tray and you can quickly come over here and scan and say, what's from a client or a prospect or something else that's really important that I need to deal with. Okay. Now, I'm like you, Trevor. I get over 200 emails a day some days. A lot of them are absolute rubbish, and I don't need to be doing them. And what I was finding was I'm spending a lot of time sorting through my inbox. Oh, hello. Sorting through my inbox, trying to find just chat amongst yourselves, trying to find the emails that are important for me. So use rules to help those be sorted. Okay. So those to sort for you. Really important. They're in all the programs. So all you do is set up some folders, set up the rules. You've got to work hard once to build all the rules for what you need, and then you need to make sure that you keep doing them. Okay. Now the second thing here is then you need to have, if you're getting more than 2 emails in a chain, then call somebody. Don't go backwards and forwards. Just pick up the phone and call them or text them and just say, can we sort this out? Otherwise, you just go backwards and forwards endlessly in emails. Now, if you're getting telephone tag and you're doing the same things, I would send an email or a text to finish that off as well. Okay, so take control of the situation and make sure that you're doing that. All right, meetings. Righto. Before we do, I've got a couple of things here. Oh, hang on. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting some stuff happening here. Why is that? All right. I can't read the question box for some reason. There we go. All right. Yeah, and that's another great point. I was going to make that one, and I jumped through it. But Cameron, yeah, take a few minutes while you're going through and setting up the rules to unsubscribe to all those useless things that you get. So things that you're not reading, you're not taking notice of, get rid of them. Obviously, you're not going to get rid of any of my emails, but there may be others that you want a great one. Neil's got 2 great filters. Emails that are CC'd or BC'd go into separate folders. Yeah, only in the direct inbox. That's great. So you can do that using the rules. If you're in the BC or a CC, you just put into a separate folder where you don't have to read it. So if I'm not important enough to be part of the main communication, then I will. Then I don't necessarily feel like I have to read it straight away as well. Okay, let's talk about meetings. Another big problem for lots of people, spending lots and lots and lots of time in meetings. It's a real challenge, I guess, for many in that a lot of meetings are really unproductive, just on everything. So what I find here is that the stats are pretty alarming. That senior people spend somewhere between 22 and 11 hours a week in meetings. So somewhere between 50 and 25% of their time is caught up in meetings, all right? Massive amount of their time. This was from a survey done by the Wharton Center for Applied Research in the USA. Of the senior managers who participated in this process, senior middle managers and CEOs, they said that in 25% of the meetings that they attended, a memo or a simple phone call could have sorted out a whole heap of those issues without the need for a meeting. So we're having lots of unnecessary meetings. Now, there are 4 meetings that I recommend that you do have in your business, and need to do this on a regular basis. In the if you're a client of mine, then we've got a whole lot of resources around this, and we'll include these in the training course, or they are included in the training course. The first thing is, is a team huddle. I don't know any high production business that doesn't have some sort of huddle with the team. When I say team, it might be the accounting team or the logistics team. It doesn't have to be the whole business, but doesn't have a team huddle on at least a daily or a weekly basis. Now, the timing of these meetings all depends on the meeting rhythm for your business. So if you read Vern Harnish's book, The Rockefeller Habits, he talks about it's really important that you understand the pace at which your business is going. So if the pace of the business is going really rapidly, you need to meet very rapidly as well, very frequently, in order to balance that out and keep steering the business in the right direction. So the faster your business is growing and developing and moving, the more regularly you need to meet. Doesn't mean you need to meet for long, it needs to be short. So those team huddles are really important. The second meeting is some sort of transactional catch-up. Okay, so most people do this fairly well. It's where they catch up with people as required, and they talk about what's going on for them and what's happening in their particular world, sort out some problems, all that sort of stuff. Normally a quick 5 to 10 minute meeting is where you need to leave it at. The one that most businesses don't do very well at all is what I call a circuit breaker. I'll come back to that, Sue. Is a circuit breaker meeting, and it's a really powerful meeting. I'll take you through a quick, example of that in a minute. But it's where you sit down with people on a regular basis and give them feedback on how they're performing and how they're going in their role. Why this is so important? Boston Consulting Group did a survey of over 200,000 people from around the world. The number one thing that they want from their employment in their job is relevant feedback on their performance. And guess what? The vast majority of businesses fail to give it in any way, shape, or form. If we do, it's normally some very formal performance review process, which is more adversarial than collaborative. So what we want to have is a collaborative meeting, which is what this circuit breaker meeting is. I'll take you through that circuit breaker meeting in a minute. The last one then is this performance review, it's one of those things that I think can be either a long-winded exercise or it can be quite short and sharp. If you're doing the circuit breaker meetings, then my experience is your performance reviews come right back, because all you're dealing with is the outlying issues for what people have got going on. I'll take you through the circuit breaker in a second. Got a couple of questions here. So team huddle. And do you do it with all your pickers? Yeah, I would. So I'd start it off, when you get your pickers in the morning, Sue, I'd be saying, okay, boys and girls, this is what went well yesterday. This is where we're going today. This is what we're picking today. This is the target we need you to pick for, the quality of the fruit, whatever it is that you're picking. I would be having that meeting. Honestly, I don't work and haven't worked with a high performance business that doesn't have these sort of team huddles in the morning. I know Les is online, and I think you'd probably find the same thing. Works with lots of manufacturers. So, that team huddle is really important, and everybody in this, it does, doesn't it? So Sue's made the comment, everybody's got their arms folded. Yeah, it doesn't look that good, does it? Anyway, it's a nice stock image. Yeah. I don't think you have to touch each other in the huddle, Sue. That's okay. What I'm talking about is just talking to people. Okay. So it's not about putting your arms around each other. It's just about getting everybody together The huddle thing is more about a small group thing rather than getting, everybody in the whole company together. It's different work teams you may need to get together and doing different things. Let's talk about the circuit breaker, because I find it's the one that most people don't do well. As I said, we've got some resources on this in the training course. I'll come back to that question in a second, Kate. So your circuit breaker meeting, this is what I encourage you to do. Map out your KPIs. So what are this person's particular key performance indicators that you need to get across? And then think about those. Think about some relevant comments. I'd give them a copy of this and they can fill out the KPIs and stuff and send it to you first. And then I'd have a chat with them. What's gone well since we last met? What could have gone better, and what changes do we need to make? And think about the changes you make in terms of skills, knowledge, and behaviours. Okay. All right. And then come up with some actions that you're going to need to do to move on. Yeah. I just find it's a really simple process for people to actually give them some feedback that's relevant. So remember, skills, knowledge, behaviours. What are the changes we need to make in those areas in order to help people perform better? So give them the feedback that they want, that people ask for. All right. Kate's question is, work with contractors or journalists around the country. How do we get them together? I'd be getting together in a quick huddle if you like. I'd be using a tool like GoToWebinar or Skype or something where you can get together quickly, or even just a phone teleconference, a quick teleconference. And it may not be daily; it might be on whatever time frame is relevant for those contractors and those journalists. But I'd be pulling them together to at least task them up. So that's how I'd be doing it. Use the technology to give you the leverage. All right. So effective meetings driven by three things: purpose, process, payoff. And I've talked about this in previous webinars. Really, really useful. Comes out of Mike Boyle, the sales guru course. It's about setting up cold calls and other things. I use it to set up meetings. So really want to say the purpose of today's meeting is to do X, Y, Z. The process is the agenda. So either you have a fixed agenda, or you might talk the agenda and say, righto, we're going to meet for 20 minutes to discuss this issue. We're going to have 10 minutes of discussion, 5 minutes about making the decision, and 5 minutes talking about what do we do next. At the end of that, we will hopefully have made a quality decision that we can justify. All right. So that's the payoff part. All right. Really important that you set the meeting up well, keep it to time, and take control. So this is where you take control in this process. Now, by setting the purpose up, you're setting up the outcome. What are the outcomes that we're expecting? What's the purpose of it? What are we going to do? And how do we get people engaged? And then lastly, what's the payoff? Why bother in here? So just think about that, that sort of methodology, so you're planning your meetings a lot better. All right. Leverage. A couple of ways to get some really good leverage. The first is a virtual assistant. And now this can be somebody who's employed overseas, easily be somebody in Australia. It doesn't have to be an overseas person. There are plenty of local virtual assistants who will work for you. Beauty of a virtual assistant is that you can use them for projects. You can engage them on a contract basis, part-time or full-time. My people, Ray and Chris in the Philippines, fantastic workers, full-time employees with me. They've got great skill sets. All right. We've got some great articles on the website about how to recruit a virtual assistant if you're interested in using that. But they can give you fantastic leverage across your business for often a lot lower investment than what you're traditionally using for. One of the things you've got to be careful of is that you recruit them well. So run a good recruitment process, just like you would for anybody in Australia. It's a bit more difficult because it's electronic, but still have your interviews, get them to do things, prove their capability. The other thing is set up the job description right, the role profile right, and don't expect to get a superhero. So I often talk people saying, yeah, I want a virtual assistant. Somebody who can design my website, write my blog articles, do all my marketing, type up all my stuff, book my travel, do everything else. these people are superheroes, and it's like finding an accountant who can dance. It's just not going to happen. So sorry for all the accountants. I thought that there we go, a little bit of stuff there. Yeah, okay. So Peter's used Upwork to help hire a VA. Excellent. It's been a great fun learning moment. Yeah, it's good. And they're great people to work with. It's a really good stuff. Yeah, I know, Tony, you're a good dancer. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Yep. Yeah. Ag feed. Yeah, working on it. Greed. Sorry, that probably is. Yeah. So virtual assistant, really great way to get you some of that great leverage that you need. I've actually got a client who's now talking about getting a virtual assistant for their personal assistant, right, to give them some leverage that takes some of the run-of-the-mill stuff away from them. So we're leveraging up our leverage. Second thing, I talked about wasting a lot of time on emails. Encourage you to use video and audio instead of email. Okay, with the technology nowadays, it's really easy to do this. For those of you who are clients of mine, you will notice I've been doing it more and more. The feedback I'm getting is really quite good. I find I can put a lot more into a text message, into a voice message than I can into a written one. Anyhow, I'll put a lot more detail into it. Give you an idea of the productivity improvement. 18 minutes to type out a message took me 3 minutes to do the audio version of it. There's a 15-minute saving there if you do a number of those a day. You can use your phone and send it as a message. You can actually send it as a text message from your phone if you want to, or you can use some desktop software. The software I use is either my mobile phone. I use Audacity for voice recordings and Snagit for quick videos. I have steam-powered internet here in Bundaberg, and thanks Telstra. And as a result, the upload times on videos just too long. So I'm finding that voice messages are far better. Yeah. Not just restricted to Bundaberg. Hey, we could have a big whinge about Telstra and the internet speeds now, but it's a sad thing when that's the biggest worries in our life is our internet speed. So use the tools to give you some leverage. You'd be really surprised about it. You can actually do a much better job, and you can actually respond to people in a more meaningful way. I want to talk to you about productivity tools that really work. I guess the things here you got to understand your core technology. So what's the core technology that sits behind all these tools? For me, I'm a Mac and Apple fiend, so I have an iPhone, an iPad, and an iMac. And I find systems that work across all those platforms. So for me, if I'm going to start picking software and applications to help me out, they need to interface across with each other, but also run across platforms. So I want things that run across all of my 3 platforms, so I'm never away from them. They need to be fit for purpose, so they need to do a good job, and they need to be good at their job, and they also need to lift productivity. Okay, so they need to be stuff that's not just fun, that actually is productive and is actually not just a workaround. So my ecosystem that I think about when I think about this stuff, I look at client information storage, I look at data storage, I look at information storage, I look at task management, communication, finances, and operations, how I do things. So they're the areas that I've looked at in my ecosystem, and here's my ecosystem here. Essentially, I've got 3 key core elements to it. Insightly, which is my CRM, which stores all my client information, including emails and all that sort of stuff logged against clients. Really important. It's a web-based system. I can share it with my team. I can track opportunities and projects in it and use it as part of my marketing, and it integrates well with programs like MailChimp and others that we use to send out mail outs and stuff for these webinars and other things. Information storage, so general information storage. We've got time, which I probably don't. I'll take you through this in a second. Is Evernote, and then and that's where I store lots of different information. And then data storage, so all my Word files and all my client files and all that sort of stuff, spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff, I store in OneDrive. But you could use Dropbox or something else. Okay. So they're the 3 core things that happen in my business. Central to that is also my email system. Okay. Now what I've done is on my iPad I use a system called Cloud Magic because it integrates with both Trello, which I'll talk about in a second, and Evernote really well, and it also works with Untitled, which is really useful. And on my Mac I use Airmail for the same reason. It integrates with other programs really well. Go to Google Calendar because it just works with everything. I found other programs just crash and burn all the time around me, and all these things sort of link together really nicely. And Trello is a tool we use to communicate with my team and manage tasks. TripIt is something that I use to manage my travel. MindShop Online is a fantastic tool that I use to work with my clients. It's a database and resource system that allows me to track progress and to communicate well with my clients. As I mentioned, I use Snagit, ScreenFlow, and Audacity to work with video and sound. Skype and GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting for communication. The Office 365 suite is it's just got better and better and better. I'm not a big fan of Microsoft, but they get better and better. And the Office 365 product is a fantastic product, I have to say that. And then my LiveScribe pen, which is an electronic pen, is absolutely brilliant because it synchronizes with Evernote, and all my written notes are now in electronic form that I can share with other people. There you go. There's the Pomodoro timer going off. In terms of finances, I use Receipt Bank. It's one of the ways I've really saved some time. Receipt Bank allows me to take a photo of a receipt with my iPhone, and it automatically uploads into Xero through my bookkeeper. All goes really well. Fantastic stuff. Now let's just talk a little bit about Trello. I was going to show you some of these, and I'll ask your indulgence, and I'll quickly show you through some of these because it's much easier to show you than it is to talk about it. So Trello is an online task management tool that I use with my team, and of course I've managed to shut it down. So we'll pull it up live here. So we log into Trello. Come on now. And it's got a series of boards and things that I can pick from. I'll take you to the board that we use to plan our webinar programs. Sorry, the steam-powered internet, a bit slow. So where are we here? Go to webinar program, open a new board. So this is it here. So each of these columns is like a task list, if you like. So we've got planned, in progress, done, routine tasks over here, and these are the webinars that are in progress. So this is the one we're doing here today. So we've used this to plan this. Now we can add attachments to it. We put the deadline in for when it's due. We've got checklists in here, so this has all been done. We're recording it now, that sort of stuff. Then we can add comments. So Ray and Chris and I can talk about things. We can upload files. We can work on things as part of this process and communicate. It sends me emails and lets me know when there's comments, when people have made comments and done things, so I know to go in and check things. And then the beauty is we can drag stuff around, so you can drag stuff between columns if you like. Really visual, really good, really cost effective. It's basically free. Okay, I think I've got the premium version. I think it's $50 a year. I'm not even sure what the premium stuff does. Such a good program. All right, so that's Trello. Advise you to use something similar. I really like it. You need something that's task management, allows you to collaborate with others. Let's have a look here at Evernote. So this is Evernote. So Evernote is a series of notebooks, and I've just shown you in here to the. This is my reference notebook. This is where I store lots of stuff. Okay. Now, beauty about Evernote is you can put information into a variety of ways. So here's a note that I've just copied this file straight in here. I can add in a voice recording if I want to. I can clip a video. I can put stuff into it. I can type directly into it. Can't touch type, so let's not do that. I can do a whole heap of things. So if you look here, the circuit breaker meetings, I've got a video file here. I've added the template into it, which appears here, and then I've typed some notes and stuff into it. I can then share that with people. This is how my Evernote, LiveScribe pen sends notes in. So it's fantastic. So the notes appear, and then I can share them. I can annotate them. I can do all sorts of stuff with them. I can type in notes and do things and share them with other people. So it all works together. and then you use tags to sort things and place things, and you put things in different notebooks. Really great stuff. All right. Yeah, thanks, Cam. Sorry, mate. Okay, so that's Evernote. Encourage you to use it. Adding websites and stuff in is just really a matter of just, if we go to this website here, and all we do is go up here is I click on this little elephant here, and it says, do you want to add it? And I go, yeah. And what do I want to add it into? I want to add it into my reference. Look down here, into reference, and I can add tags and stuff to it. I'll just go save, and it will clip that straight to Evernote. So it's syncing it now. Internet's a bit slow, but it will appear. So it's that useful and that quick. So all I do back here, hopefully it's come up there. It synchronizes, and it'll just pop that in just a second. Evernote, a really powerful tool. There it is there. So there you go. So there's the website. It'll take a second to download, but there it is there. So that's the actual full website. You can click on that and run around in it. So really powerful tool that you can then go and add tags to and put it wherever you like. Okay, so that's Evernote for you. LiveScribe Pen works really well with that. I won't take you through some of the other stuff I was going to take you through, because I was really just going to chat through and work through those, but I think you get the gist. Whole heap of stuff here. LiveScribe Pen, if you take notes at all and you need to have them electronically, it's absolutely fantastic. It's about $200 from Officeworks or online. Get the LiveScribe 3 pen. It works seamlessly with OneNote, which is the other version, which is the Microsoft version of Evernote. A great product. The Microsoft version of it is pretty strong, whereas the Apple version is not as strong as you'd like. So I've stuck with Evernote for that reason. OneDrive, a great way to store client files in the sky. Insightly is my CRM. Yeah, everything else here. I was going to show you some stuff there as well. Now, how does this all work together? And I think this is really important, because you've got to see how this ecosystem works. So this works. I take some notes with my LiveScribe pen. Here they are here. They're uploaded to Evernote seamlessly. I flick that note. I just copy a link, plug it into Trello, and put it up as a task, or sometimes I'll just flick it straight onto Ray. There's lovely Ray here. She will type it up for me, normally put it back into, save it into OneDrive, and then add it to Trello as a card. As soon as I get back to the office, I click on it, and there it is, already in Trello. So these are sort of 30-minute reports. Quite often Ray will have stuff typed up from workshops and stuff before I get back to the office. So really, really powerful way to use that technology and to leverage it. Now, if you're involved in horticulture at all, some great programs that can really help you with the delivery end of things and staying across things. AgWorld and GrowNote, really powerful. We don't have time to go into those today, but I don't use them, but I've got a number of clients who do. So have a look at various programs that you can use to be far more deliberate in your delivery. All right, so that's the end of that. My apologies, I have really gone over time tonight. We should have said it was a 90-minute webinar. So back to the time management pyramid. Really important that you understand that you've got to work on all three areas, okay? So you've got to work on your belief systems and get your focus right and your attitude right. Get your diet right and get plenty of sleep, all that sort of stuff. Get up and move around. Use the Pomodoro thing. So on your 5-minute break, get up, walk around. I've got clients who drop to the ground and do push-ups and stuff. It's all a bit crazy, but use it. Work out what you're going to do. Okay, so use the Covey quadrants and work out the important things that you need to do and really map it out all out. So just be really cognizant of the fact that you need to be focused on what it is that you do. And when you spend too much time. And the last bit then is structure. Okay, so get the structure right. Use the tools. If you do nothing else but focus on the 4 things you have to do, then that'll be a great day for you. So focus on those four things, and hopefully you'll yeah. So we've gone overboard on a time management webinar. Thanks for that, Sue. Thanks for bringing that up. just packed a little bit more in than I was thinking. So the important stuff is, think about 3 actions that you can take away from today's session. What's happened there? 3 hours that you can take away from this session to save yourself 8 hours in every week. So what are the 3 things that you're going to do? Okay, I want you to think about them now. I know some of you got to rush off, but head off. But what are the 3 things you're going to do to save yourself 8 hours in every week? Pick the top one, type it into the question area. I want you to also think about that question I asked you about. Yeah, to-do sheets. Yeah, delegate and prioritize. Exactly. Yeah. Make better use of Trello. Yeah, it's a great tool. Really is a good tool, Les. Yeah, change your email habits. Yeah, you'll get so much time back in a day. Yeah, put some rules in your emails, Trevor. Well done. Yeah, outsource. Yeah, Pomodoro timers. Yeah. 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 Receipt bank. Yeah, it's a great one. I think when we had that coffee in Brisbane the other day, Les, I think you saw me taking photos of things. Maybe not. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Simon. And the email rules. Okay. So think about it. Think about what it's costing you. Yeah. So what poor time management's costing you in your business. All right. I'm going to let you go. A couple of things before we move on. If you want some more help, we've got some free diagnostics, that sort of stuff that you can use, and they'll help you just get some insights into your business. Lots of videos, some more stuff on time management and setting priorities and all that sort of stuff. Got some blog articles and some resources. As always, if you want to book a 10-minute call with me, I've actually put some technology in place to actually make that far more efficient. It's called Calendly. So you can actually click on a link and it will allow you to pick a time with me to book a 10-minute call. So really happy to have that 10-minute call with you. It's just about understanding whether it's a good fit between you and I, and then we can book another call to decide how we might work together, what that might cost, all that sort of stuff. But I think the chemistry test is pretty important up front, so really happy to have Ava talk to you. Also mention that we put together a online training course. So what I've done is develop 10 modules that sort of reflect this course we've run through tonight, but in a lot more detail. So put them in place, 10 modules with videos and worksheets. You'll get 6 months access, 24/7. You can jump in and out whenever you like. I'm happy to answer do some quick question and answer stuff support with you if you really want. Normally we'd sell this for $197, but we're going to put it on sale. Probably we've had some technical difficulties, so it could be 48 hours, but for $127 plus GST. So if you're really interested in going hardcore on this and really pulling out the benefits of, I guess, that extra 8 hours in a week, I'd suggest that you just log on and start to use the tools and the processes that we've got to really map some stuff out. Okay, that's all. Thanks very much for indulging me tonight. I think we'll stay on top of this a little bit better. If you've got any additional questions or any comments that you'd like to make, then please just make them into the question box. Otherwise, I'll let you head off to your family and your friends, and we'll talk again soon.